Hi, friends. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Sometimes there are emotions in the body that are used to cover up other emotions that can be painful or difficult to sit in. These emotions are called secondary emotions. They can be very useful, they can be very beneficial. There's so much information that we can pull out of these emotions. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into secondary emotions. My name is Raquel Teres, and I am a licensed professional counselor candidate in the state of Colorado. So let's go ahead and get started. So secondary emotions are emotions that come in because there is another emotion, which is called a primary emotion, that is very difficult or painful for the body to sit in. So the secondary emotion comes in and it kind of covers up that difficult or painful emotion. There's another video that I created a few weeks ago that talks about primary and secondary emotions and kind of how they play with each other. But in this video, we're going to just hone in specifically on those secondary emotions. Again, the secondary emotions are beneficial and they are helpful because they are allowing our body to take a space that's very painful or very difficult and to sit in this space by using those secondary emotions. And so that means that they are helpful and they are beneficial for our bodies. And there is also much information that we can pull from these emotions, which are the secondary emotions. Oftentimes, it feels like life is kind of racing. There's so much information, there's so much input coming that it's very difficult to even decipher or to label the emotions that are happening inside of our bodies, to really even identify them. And in my perspective, this is kind of the first step. This is the first step in even identifying whether it's a primary or secondary emotion. First, I must understand what emotion it is that is happening in my body at the moment. One of the ways that I like to use, or some of the ways that I like to use to identify emotions in general, is one, body sensations. It's really honing in, dialing in to the sensations that are happening in our body. For example, tightness in the chest, or tingling in the legs or in the feet, maybe numbness settling in the arms. These sensations are there because the body is feeling something. The body has an emotion that it is experiencing. And if we can sit back and identify this feeling or this sensation that is happening in our bodies, we can often start to trace it back to an emotion that is creating this sensation in my body. For example, sometimes we can have a tightness in our chest, feels tight. And if I sit in that sensation and I identify that sensation of the tightness in my chest, maybe I can identify or I can label an emotion from. Maybe I can identify fear. I'm having this tightness in my chest because I'm having some fear. And now I have taken that body sensation of tightness in the chest and I have identified or I have labeled an emotion from that, fear. Now from here, I can begin to think about that fear. Another way that we can do are thoughts or ideas that are coming up for us at these moments. In other words, sometimes if we really sit back at the thoughts and the ideas that are happening when we are feeling something, when our body is sitting in a difficult space, we can have the thought of fear. I am afraid. And then we can begin to think about that fear and find whether that fear is a primary emotion or a secondary emotion, and derive information from this. Now, once I've identified the emotion itself, I can then begin to trace back that emotion. I can then begin to take that emotion that I'm feeling and begin to trace back and be curious about it. Where is this emotion coming from? Can I trace it back? Can I trace it back to where its origins are? And once I do that, can I begin to be curious about whether or not this emotion that I am feeling at this moment is kind of covering up or layered above another emotion? Is there another emotion that I can say is laying just underneath that secondary emotion? Is there an emotion? And then underneath, is there another emotion that I can identify? Now, if I come up blank, in other words, I trace back this emotion and I find its origins, if I am unable to identify another emotion underneath that, then that's a primary emotion. The only emotion that's there, at least for this moment, it's the primary emotion. But if I am able to identify another emotion beneath that, then that's a secondary emotion. For example, if I'm able to take that fear that I identified from the tightness in my chest that I felt, that sensation that I felt, and I'm able to trace it back, and I'm able to trace it back to a moment or something that I am afraid of, and if I identify that just beneath that fear, there is sadness maybe, and I know that sadness is very hard for me to sit in. Sadness is not an easy emotion for me to sit in. Then I have identified that sadness is the primary emotion that's painful or difficult for my body to feel. And so fear came in and layered itself on top of that sadness as the secondary emotion to protect me from the pain or the discomfort that the sadness was bringing onto my body. And so now I have been able to identify a secondary emotion, and I've been able to label it a secondary emotion. So to kind of take this process and to think it all the way through now. My body is feeling discomfort. My body is in a place that it's uncomfortable, okay? But I don't know exactly why. I've taken a moment to listen to the sensations that are coming up. I felt the sensation of the tightness in my chest. I identified that this tightness in my chest was coming from fear. I was able to trace back that fear, and I was able to identify actually there was sadness lying just beneath that fear. And sadness is a very difficult place for me to be in. Sadness, my body has a difficult time in that space. So what it did is, for my protection, it took that fear and it placed it right over the sadness. Now, this process can look different for all of us. All of us are going to have different primary emotions that are difficult to sit in, and we're going to have different secondary emotions that come in and layer on top of those primary emotions. And so this process, while it will look similar, there are going to be different emotions that come up and different sensations that come up for each and every one of us. Well, friends, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join me and to watch this video. I appreciate that so much. Now, if you have found this video to be helpful or useful, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. If there's any information that you would like me to bring to this channel, please put that in the comments. If you have questions, comments, please drop those down below in the comment section. There are also some free downloadable PDFs in the descriptions below, so please check that out. Thank you for taking time again. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks again. Bye for now.